They're inspiring to watch, the high-flying 125cc AMA Supercrossers. They ride with the abandon of youth, and young they are. Some don't yet have a driver's license, and none can vote. But they have a dream of a highly paid, div-short career as a factory pro rider. Mom and Dad started them at 6 or 7 on mini bikes, cramming the family van for weekend trips to the races. There's been lots of bumps and bruises, but now all the hard work may be worth it. Junior's at Daytona for the biggest race of his life. Today on American Sports Cavalcade, we present from the world center of racing, the AMA Daytona 125 Supercross by Honda from Daytona International Speedway. Anytime we come to Daytona, the birthplace of Supercross, we can always count on one thing: a course that would challenge the endurance of Hercules. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans, and welcome to our show featuring the high-flying 125s. If I can ever get to the top of this jump at the start-finish line, this is the Professor Gary Bailey. He designed this course. What diabolical twist this year.
Well, I put in a few new sections. We had a nice whoop section that's been there for years down pit road, and I decided to throw a tabletop in the middle of it, just kind of mess up their timing. Put in a new triple jump and another set of whoops, which these guys, I don't think they want. In fact, 2 of the riders asked me this morning if there was any smooth places on the racetrack.
Looks to be a little longer.
It is longer. We stretched it all the way out to the ends to try and get a little bit more for the fans, because some of the people down on the far end weren't getting a big enough show.
Great job.
Thank you.
Another thing we can always count on with the 125s, there'll be a new kid on the block. And trust me, this one is a kid. He's with Ralph Shaheen.
Young is right, Steve. This blue and white 125 YZR Yamaha is being piloted by 17-year-old Kevin Windham. And Kevin, it's your first year on a Yamaha and your first year pro. That's a lot of pressure for a young guy. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. The guys at Yamaha, they make sure everything's going good for me, and not put a lot of pressure on me, and make sure, I'm try to stay calm and go out there and not make, not putting pressure on me to win. Of course, they want to win, I want to win, but they kind of just, let me go at my own pace and not put too much extra pressure on me.
Not that that's not enough, but here you are at the biggest Supercross of the whole season at Daytona. What kind of mental strategy are you taking into this as you still look for your first 125 win of the season?
Basically, just go out there and ride smooth. This is a really rough track and got, all kind of breaking bumps and whoops and all kind of stuff. And I've been a little sick this week and kind of down on energy and stuff. So basically just eat a lot and try to get my energy up, go out there and just ride smooth and consistent.
Steve, as you know, if the pressure doesn't get to him, the fact that he's feeling a little under the weather could be the trickiest part of the weekend for Kevin Windham, because this is a very demanding racetrack.
Well, whoops is short for whoop-de-doos, which is motocross parlance for a short, choppy section on the course. And you heard Gary Bailey said he's installed another set of whoops to try to spank these young riders. I'll tell you, Ralph Shaheen, this is a course that a lot of people have trouble walking around, let alone riding a motorcycle.
I don't think we've ever seen a Daytona Supercross track any rougher, any tougher than this one, and they're never easy here at Daytona.
In fact, it's so tough, our cameraman wanted a helmet just to make this shot. Earlier in the weekend, Ralph had a chance to get some interesting ideas and perspectives on new helmet technology.
In 125 Supercross competition, the manufacturers are always trying to make their motorcycles as light as possible. The lighter the bike, the faster you go. Well, the same thing can be said for the gear that the riders wear. Helmets are a big problem area. If you can lighten the helmet, it makes it a lot easier for the rider to concentrate on the racing. Take a look at this beautiful new design from the folks at AXO. It's a carbon fiber Kevlar helmet, and it only weighs about 1 pound. That's great news to the Supercross racers. The biggest problem now for the riders is trying to decide, do I paint it or not paint it? Personally, I say leave it alone. The carbon fiber Kevlar design looks really cool. And even if you don't ride, just buy one of these and put it on the shelf next to your bike, because it'll look pretty good just sitting right there.
Well, I don't know if you want to paint it. All that consideration for weight. Paint weighs a couple of ounces. Kevin Windham on a Yamaha out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana knows that, but he painted it anyway.
One of Kevin's biggest problems as you take a look at Robbie Reynard is going to be the fact that he's feeling a little sick with the flu. You heard him talking about that, Steve. You've got to be in A1 condition to ride here at Daytona.
And that description fits local boy Tim Ferry on a Suzuki.
Here you see Jim Neese. He sits back in 7th place in the points right now. The 125 Eastern Regional standings. They divide the 125s up into 2 divisions, and we're on the East Coast here.
And number 37, Davey Yusek on a Suzuki from Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania, enjoying the warm weather here in Florida. Even though the skies are overcast, it's still a very comfortable day to ride.
Everybody's in the gate inside the box where it says Honda's where our starter is. He'll push the button, the gate will drop, and we'll be underway.
The start is so critical in Supercross. If you're not up front, you take a chance of getting knocked down and run over.
There's only 2 heats today. 9 riders will transfer as the revs come up.
Everybody over the handlebars to prevent an out-of-control wheel stand. Now they'll slide back and try to get maximum traction. Look at this.
Oh, we got one down.
Down goes number 76, Ty Wallace. Joining the tangle is Chad Kresge, 380. Brett Salander also had a bad little get off, number 272. Let's watch again.
Steve, they start in a long line of 20 across, and they try to funnel down to a tight turn, and when they do get together like that, there's handlebars banging, there's riders banging. Look at Chadwick Shepard here on the far right. He goes up into the berm, he goes down, and in front of him goes down Ty Wallace, Chad Kresge, and Brett Salander, all in the middle there. Luckily, they were all able to get up and continue. Nobody got hurt.
And with the case of Ty Wallace and some of the others, they had good positions on the gate. Had they got a rocket start, they'd have been ahead of that. Let's take a look at what's going on the racetrack finally. Number 45, Jim Neese is in the lead ahead of 50, Mike Treadwell, 37, Davey Yusek, 204, Doug DeHane, and 22, Robbie Reynard.
Robbie Reynard, the youngster for Kawasaki, he is their golden child that they're putting a lot of credit to. Right now it's Jim Neese out front on that red Honda who is leading the field.
And number 43, Kevin Windham joining the fray.
Kevin is a real young charger coming up on that Yamaha, the number 43 machine. He is one of the bright futures for Yamaha.
Some of these riders are already on a factory payroll and even depicted in the color handouts right along with the 250 Supercross riders. So some of them have already kind of made the leap.
Here's Kevin Windham now working around the 204 machine. That's Doug DeHane. Windham came up through Kawasaki's Team Green organization, which is for the amateur riders. When he turned pro, he went to Yamaha.
All right, here's our top 3. 45, Jim Neese, 50, Mike Treadwell, and mounted on the number 37 bike, that is Davey Yusek. Just behind is 22, Robbie Reynard, running in the 6th spot. Whoa, getting tangled up, taking a cover off of one of the bales. And if that gets wound around the sprocket, which it is, and interferes with the brake, Robbie could have a real handicap.
If it doesn't hit the brake, you're okay. It's when it gets on the brake pads itself and so forth, that's where you develop your problem.
So the 125cc's, a wild first heat. Fortunately, everybody okay. Not a Band-Aid required. Stay with us. We'll be back to Daytona.
We're back to Daytona. The 125 Supercross by Honda is well underway with heat number 1, and you're looking at the top 2 contenders. Jim Neese on the 45, riding along behind him a bike 37, Davey Yusek out of Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania on his Suzuki. And Yusek will take the lead right here from Jim Neese. Suzuki has concentrated most of their factory efforts into the 250 ranks in 95. The 125 riders are all basically privateers involved with local dealerships and so forth. Yusek is one of the best riding for Suzuki in 125.
And Mike Treadwell in 3rd spot. Better look out. They're closing in on his number 50. 43, Kevin Windham, coming on really fast.
Windham is around him. Now Robbie Reynard is right behind him. And Tim Ferry. Look at Tim Ferry. This is one of the best riders on the Suzuki support program.
And performed so well here a year ago in front of his hometown fans. Now for Robbie Reynard, so far at least, that plastic wrapped around his spoke doesn't seem to be a problem, but we got one rider who does have a problem, and that is Mike Treadwell. He went down. Let's have another look at why. Ooh, nose first, slides it out. Actually did a good job under the circumstances.
That's a step-up jump right there, and it has a very sheer face at the first half. You clear the first half, and it sets you up for the bigger climb, and he just didn't get off the first step real well.
Really riding like it was the main event is number 23, Tim Ferry, closing in on Jim Neese for 3rd spot. really, really singing a song on that little 125. And he almost missed. He went so far to the outside, which is a favorite line. You take a chance of completely missing the jump or straddling one of those bales.
This heat is as good as a 125 main anywhere in the country. Some of the best riders are in this one. Remember, 9 of them will transfer out of here. But where you finish, as we cross the halfway point, you saw the cross green and whites. Where you finish decides where you start, and Jim Meese is down.
He's not only down, he is buried underneath the motorcycle. Emergency workers there very quickly. A tip of the hat to the flagmen that worked the corners to let other riders know that there's something up ahead they should be aware of. Meese obviously has the wind knocked out of him. Let's hope that's all it is.
When you consider how high these riders fly through the air and how fast they're going, when you hit the ground, you hit hard. You're coming from a long way with a lot of speed. In some of the stadiums, 60 feet, 70 feet in the air, hey, that's average.
And here's the fight for the lead. Number 37, Davey Yezek, and 43, Kevin Windham. Here comes Windham. And remember, as reliable as these bikes are, as bullet fast as they are basically production motorcycles. AMA requires that. You race tweak them. They've got great mechanics and motorcycle shops setting them up, and basically you can buy these bikes. Tim Ferry now joins the fray for the lead. Number 23. No one seems content here with just a top 9 finish, because how they finish in the heat also determines where they're going to start on the gate, and everybody wants to start to where they can get to that first turn without a major pileup.
Wyndham is doing a tremendous job here. He gets around Yezek now and takes over the lead, and here comes Tim Ferry right with him, and boy, is this Daytona crowd behind the local Florida rider.
And Ferry, it appeared to just blow by Yezek, but now Yezek challenges back. Oh, good stuff.
Listen to him work that throttle through the rhythm section there, through the whoops, on and off the throttle as they try to set the motorcycle to fly over the rhythm jumps. You don't want to get down in the ruts. You want to stay on top of the bumps.
And it would be so easy to get out of sync with those whoops to where your throttle is working independently of your mind.
Absolutely. This is first, second, and third, don't forget. And you saw one of the problems as Ferry kicked up a roost of dirt right back into the eyes of Yezek. That is a real problem for these riders. They're not a full face shield on the helmet, but they do wear goggles. That's why these guys always look so dirty when we talk to them after the races.
Tim Ferry must have every aunt, uncle, nephew, and hanger-on in the grandstand, because there's one section that's just cheering non-stop for the rider on bike number 23.
It's hard not to. He came from deep in the field here at the start, and he has worked his way through one of the best 125 fields we've seen all year in a heat race, and he is leading as you take a look at Robbie Raynard.
Last year in this class, he had some great racing with Ezra Lusk, who has now gone on to the 250, and that's a step that Ferry hopes to make in 96.
That is one of the advantages, and one reason why a lot of people are picking Tim Ferry to win the 125 Eastern Regional Championship. He finished third in that division last year on a Honda. This year, the 2 riders that finished ahead of him, Ezra Lusk and Jimmy Button, have abandoned the 125 Eastern Region. So, Tim Ferry is the guy to beat here.
He certainly is the guy to beat in this heat, and he is right now stretching it out. If anything, just going to make it look easy. You mentioned East and West divisions, and AMA does that. Let's remember, a lot of these kids, most of them are still in high school, and that prevents the families from having to travel great distances, hopefully, and keep the costs down a little bit.
That's right. This is a stepping stone as we are on the white flag lap. We are at the last lap here in the heat number 1. These are stepping stone riders up to the 250 class. They're developing their talents. They're getting a taste of what it's like to race professionally in AMA competition, but we still need to groom them as people. They need to finish their education, set up for college, and so forth. These guys, 16, they're old for 125.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, though, they're certainly not second rate when it comes to the show and athleticism. Look at Ferry right there, just punishing his upper body over the hoops, as they call them.
There's a good reason why you and I are not doing this, Steve. We're taking a look at it right now.
I actually tried it in the early 70s, had a late start at it, and found that I was horrible at it. Did do a little racing out in the desert, though, in California, and that was a lot of fun. You never know when you might come across an old mine shaft nobody covered up. Tim Ferry on the 23 bike. I tell you, he is pretty much humiliated this first heat, and it was a little top-heavy with talent.
I really was amazed when we took a look at the grid. Oh, wow, look at Ferry bounce that bike. The body strength it takes and the athleticism as he takes the win here to keep that bike balanced and heading forward at those speeds through those spots, it's amazing. Don't try that at home. We'll be back with more.
Well, here at Daytona, a lot of these 125 racers are running for more than a cash prize or a trophy. They're running for a lifestyle. Tim Ferry on a Suzuki wins heat number 1, and Ralph's with him.
You know, that first moto is always a tough one because you got all the butterflies and the adrenaline and everything going, and winning it is not a bad way to go. How was it out there?
It was pretty good. I didn't get such a great start, but the guys didn't seem like they were riding really hard or something, and so I just took advantage of it and won pretty easily.
Are you surprised by the pace? You said they're riding pretty tough.
I really was surprised by the pace because in practice, you know, everybody was really close, and that time it looked like Wyndham and Renard, you know, looked like they were having little problems out there.
Tim Ferry wins moto number 1. He's into the main. Steve?
Kevin, a fine ride. I know you're not feeling too well. Is the adrenaline pumping now? The flu kind of gone?
Yeah, the adrenaline's pumping. I'm having trouble supplying it for the whole race. I felt good in the early goings, and then towards the end, I just kind of started fading.
In a second, that puts you in good position for the next race.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. It'll give me a good shot in the main. If I can go out there and just last the whole one in the main.
No sense hurting yourself with a motorcycle to win when second will do it. Ralph?
The riders for heat number 2 are already in the gate. They've spent some time packing the area down there. Big ruts develop in front of the gate. They'll go in there, they'll walk in there, pack it all down so they get the best launch they can out of the gate. As you take a look at the list of riders who will be staged here for heat number 2.
The first gates in this country in the late 60s fell away from the riders. It was easy to cheat. Now these are pointed right at you. They each fall individually, and it can be really painful if you misjudge it. Cross your fingers.
Boy, there's that tricky step-up jumping. Everybody got through okay.
Just amazingly. No falls on that first jump. And number 16, James Dobb, gets a handle on it early. The number 16 bike right there.
James Eichel on the 700 machine got a wonderful start. And he bumps into a male there. And the 65 of Nathan Ramsey comes past for second place now.
Now, these riders had an opportunity to watch that first heat and see some of the lines that Tim Ferry and the boys were taking, maybe imitate some of that. But the course changes so fast, not a lot of that you can do.
That's very true, because what these riders are seeing on lap number 1 of this heat is not what they're going to see on lap number 2, because there's 19 other guys that came through after you, and all those motorcycles chewed up that turn, so it's nowhere near the same next time by.
But what you've got with these knobby tires is 20 little miniature backhoes out there remodeling the course.
Quick reflexes make all the difference here. As you take a look at the 26 machine, that's Mike Brown. He's up in the 7th and closing quickly on Terry Parsons and Pat Barton. He picks the 2 of them off, moves up another couple of spots. We expect good things out of Michael Brown here this afternoon. He's one of the most consistent riders on the tour.
And riders of different sizes by height and weight have different styles. You see a lot of them ride very upright with their shoulders actually over the handlebars. Others are way back. It's just an individual thing or a physiological thing.
Yeah, with me, it'd be more of a bulldozer type of style. I wouldn't be able to, I don't think, get that motorcycle up in the air
I just pretend it wouldn't start. Okay, 20 riders. This is heat number 2. Same rules as the first one. The top 9 go directly to the main event.
James Eichel on the 700. Now he's having all kinds of trouble. He got a great start out of the box on that 700 machine. He's losing his rhythm. He's picking up debris in the tires. He's really struggling here now.
And it's here you start to see all of that conditioning pay off. It's not enough to just ride the motorcycle in races and even practicing during the week. You've got to follow a plan. Mikel Pichon, 101, has moved past 700. Jim Eichel into 3rd place. And here comes 26, Mike Brown. He's going to join in this thing as well. Look at Mike.
They're all fighting Nathan Ramsey as Pichon goes by. Ramsey was holding on to 2nd. Now that spot belongs to Pichon. And here comes Mike Brown with his Honda. He's going to challenge for 3rd. He'll get it there.
But the guys up front right now, they're making very careful passes, giving everybody lots of room, because you don't want to ruin what is a guaranteed start in the main event with a good position on the gate to boot.
Boy, Brown took a nice line to the outside there. You take a look at Ramsey out of Tennessee. A lot of these riders all spent time doing some big-time racing in Tennessee. Of course, Loretta Lynn has a big outdoor national that she hosts just outside of Nashville that a lot of the amateur riders pass through on the way to the 125 Supercross Series.
And all of these riders, to the man, started with mini bikes, and Loretta Lynn yearly had the biggest mini bike thing in the country. Huge. Well, there's 26, Mike Brown, now on the tail of 101, Mikel Pichon.
He'll take a little time here and follow him. He's got a transfer position. Mikel Pichon won the main event at Atlanta at the last stop and is the current points leader in this series. Wyndham sits second. Mike Brown sits back in fifth. Tim Ferry and James Dobb both in front of him in the point standings in the Eastern region.
And Gary Bailey is so crafty. One part of the course will be, decomposed ground. Another part will be sand. Another part will be red clay. You never even know how much power you can use. You got to look at the color of the dirt to decide what to do.
And that, to the average person at home, you might think, dirt is dirt. No, it's not. There are very different consistencies to the dirt. You have to ride each type of dirt differently. Your tires and your horsepower will do different things when it's trying to hook up in that dirt. You really have to think about what's in front of you. And on a day like today where the sun is changing in and out behind the clouds, it makes it even more difficult to see what the dirt is like in front of you.
Okay, we'll be back with the closing laps of heat number 2 here from Daytona right after these messages. Stay with us, won't you?
Welcome back to Daytona. Heat number 2 for the 125 Supercross by Honda is into the closing stages, Steve.
James Dobb, number 16, romping away with heat number 2, and right now has kind of calmed himself down and is really practicing for the main event more than anything else. He's quit trying to take double jumps and a triple occasionally as he goes through the whoops, balancing that motorcycle between his legs, becoming a human shock absorber.
James Dobb is sponsored by Honda of Troy. They're big backers, almost a semi-factory backed Honda team. Of course, Honda does have the traditional factory team in the 250 series. It's the 1-800-COLLECT Honda team with Jeremy McGrath and Steve Lamson and so forth. Honda of Troy has their own riders in the 250 series and in the 125 class here with James Dobb. They do get some help from the factory, but basically this is a privateer effort.
You walk to the pits, though, and they look like a factory team. They got all the moves, the neatly painted vans, everybody in uniform. Terrific operation.
The biggest difference, Steve, with Supercross and motocross racing nowadays as opposed to when you were promoting them is you don't see as many of the box vans anymore. Nowadays, you got to have a semi if you want to play with the big boys.
Well, soon to be a big boy is Barry Karsten, the 46 bike. He and 700 James Eichel have been having a pretty good race for that 5th position. In fact, darn good.
Karsten out of New Jersey brings his Suzuki down to Daytona with him. Flies through the air nicely over that jump. Through the whoops, you can see him trying to keep that front wheel in the air. You don't want to nose it down into one of those jumps. You do that, and you end in a hurry.
All right, coming up to join Barry Karsten and James Eichel in that battle for 5th is 158, and that is Terry Parsons, kind of in the background. You'll see him in a second here.
Eichel really struggled there for a while. He got a great start, then started to lose some rhythm. He seems to have regained his composure and is fighting his way back through the field, holding on solidly into a top position here. Looks like he could transfer out of here. He's running in 7th right now.
What's wonderful about the 125s is what these riders, even at their age and strength level, can do in the air with them. Unbelievable.
Keep an eye on the rear wheel when these riders go over a big jump. They can hit the brake on that rear wheel. When they hit the brake, it stops the gyroscoping of the wheel and it changes the flight pattern of the bike instantly. When they hit that brake and lock up that rear wheel, that is when they're coming down. It's weird how it works, but trust me, it's what happens. They do control their flight patterns with a great deal of effort with the brake.
And you young riders at home, you aspiring motocrossers, watch how much they try to keep their feet on the pegs. Occasionally, they'll use it as an outrigger, but it's not something you should try to do until you get a lot of instruction. The first thing your teacher is going to yell at you and preach at you is, keep your feet on the pegs, kid. You're going to hear that a lot.
When they do kick it out, is usually in a turn like right there. They sit back on that bike, plant that rear end of the tire, kick that foot out, and try to find a good spot to plant it. Try not to get it locked into a rut and snap it back on.
Back to our leader. This is James Dobb, giving him a riding lesson here in heat number 2, and he is on the very last lap.
See how he picked his way through that rhythm section there? There was a nice groove cut through the whoops. He stuck that motorcycle right in that smoother section, went ripping right through it. Here, it's not as smooth, no holes to follow, and he chooses an inside line of that berm, gets around James Coy out of New York on his Honda, the 118 machine, continues to march on through the field.
So James down here working the throttle right there. These bikes are so responsive. Only 125 cc's, not a lot of rotating mass inside, and they really respond to your touch. But these race-prepared bikes, they've got a very pipey exhaust system on them. That has a lot to do with the performance of a two-cycle machine. When you first get on one, you think, well, this thing doesn't have any power, and all of a sudden it hits that band, and baby cakes, you are over backwards.
Checkered flag coming up as he makes the right-hand turn. Here is the start-finish jump. Points to the crowd, holds up that number 1. He is the winner of heat number 2, is James Dobb. Mike Brown making his way to the finish line. He'll come home in 3rd. Michael Pichon finishes just in front of him in 2nd place. 9 more entries have made it to the main event. We'll be back to the Daytona. Welcome back to Daytona Beach, Florida. Ralph Shaheen and Steve Evans, along with the rest of the American Sports Cavalcade crew, as we have finished off heat number 2, the Daytona Supercross. Steve Evans has made his way down to victory lane. He's got James Dobb, our winner.
That was a nice margin of victory, James.
Yeah, that's just where I like to be. Get a whole shot, run away with it. That's what I hope to do in the main. I've had a few problems with my starts of late, but we've been working real hard at Team Honda of Troy, and looks like it's paid off.
Were you getting a little tired that last lap, or you just started to take it easy a bit?
I took it easy. I seen that I had a comfortable gap and Mikhail had shut off. So I thought I'd coast in, see if I could see any new lines, and then get ready for the main event.
Already practicing for the main. Good job.
James Dobb is into the main. 4 more riders will come out of the last chance race. Carlo Cohen hoping he can be one of those. It's only a 4-lap race, Steve, so Tony LaRusso and the boys are really going to have to work hard and quick.
And there's some first-rate young talent among this group. Riders who maybe got a bad start or get caught up in other people's problems, some of the crashes we've had. They're going to have to ride this last chance. And even if they're in the top 4, they're not going to get a great position on the gate for the main event. So they have their work cut out for them. They know it and they love it.
Jim Neese is one of those riders who needs to get through in a hurry. He was doing real well in heat number 1. He's on bike 45. There you see him, the red Honda. He cuts to the inside. Looks like he could have the lead as we stack him up at this first hairpin.
Now that did look like a hockey match. Pat Barton, 105, got stuck up there. So did Mike McDonald, 106, Trevor Vines, and some others.
Greg Rand is leading right now in the 740 machine with Jim Neese right behind him. And Brett Salander gets another taste of the Daytona dirt. You remember he went down in his heat race. He's down again at the next hairpin here in the LCQ.
Having a little problem with gravity is Mr. Salander today. Well, back up to the leaders. They don't have any problems at all.
I guess you'd say he was gravitationally challenged.
You got it.
Up front with the leaders we go. 7.
Oh, we got one down, and that is Carlo Cohen, number 94. He was running in 6th, and he just went splat against the face of that jump. But he's okay.
Getting up a little slow, though. It will rattle your noggin when you hit the ground. 76 machine running real well. Up in the front here is Ty Wallace out of Phoenixville on his Suzuki. He's up challenging for 3rd, holding on to that position, looking to make a move for 2nd if he can get around Jim Neese. But he's got the 67 to deal with, Tony LaRusso.
And I'll tell you what, right now, if you're 1st through 4th, it's not like those earlier heats. You can't dog it and practice for the main. You've got to twist the grip.
No conserving of energy here getting ready for the main event. You got to let it all hang out so you can just get into the main event. Pass for 2nd right there. The 76 of Wallace getting around Jim Neese. He'll take over 2nd place now.
And let's watch 67, the yellow bike that was 3rd in your picture there. That is Tony LaRusso. And he's trying to kidnap the 3rd spot away from 45 Jim Neese.
Up to the big step-up jump. Then there's this triple. That sets you up for this left-hander, works you back through this red plate rhythm section. You saw the 76 bike bobble there for a second, did Wallace, and that allowed Neese to close back up on him.
And you know what you notice, Ralph? how dependable these machines are. I made the point earlier, they're basically production bikes, but they're that good for the factory. They can take this kind of abuse, even with riders that may accidentally downshift when they meant to upshift, abuse the machines pretty hard. They're quite amazing.
Trust me, if these machines can survive this kind of abuse by these kinds of riders, they can survive anything that you or I can throw at them. Greg Rand down in front out of Ohio in the 740. He's opened up a real nice lead.
He sure has. Ty Wallace, number 76 in the second spot. Tony LaRusso, 67 in third. 364, Chris Brown in fourth.
Yep, Chris Brown has moved up in front of Jim Neese. He's really slowed down, did Neese. I don't know what is wrong with the motorcycle. In fact, there he is. He's rolling off the race course.
That is the shortcut back to the pit area, so Neese is out of this thing. And as the track gets more and more difficult to ride, the motorcycles themselves, the suspension gets heated up, the rider's arms get pumped up, so it's really counterproductive. One's getting tired and the other's getting more difficult.
You can hear them getting on the throttle, trying to feather that throttle with their wrist to get as much traction as they can. The dirt gets kicked back up in your face with the tires in front of you. You get a rock or a dirt clod hitting you in the face, kicked out of a tire, spinning at those speeds, well, that can really do some damage.
Oh, look at this. John Fessler trying to go inside Brett Salander. Salander had fallen earlier and kind of kicks out in, I think, obvious frustration at his day.
I think so too, Steve. He fell down twice earlier today. He's a little frustrated, probably more with himself. Hey, Fessler's just riding hard. You got to be aggressive. It's the Daytona Supercross. It's the biggest one of the year. You don't get to the main by riding quietly and calmly.
And you get to be a pro by controlling your emotions. That's part of it as well.
It's a big part of the maturity process. Remember, most of these guys, we call them guys, they're really kids. They're 16, 15 years old.
When I was promoting motocross, and here come the winner to collect his money in the big trophy, he'd take off his helmet, get Clearasil in one hand, and reach for the money with the other. Literally.
Here comes the 364 machine of Chris Brown, still working his way through the field. Ty Wallace on the 76, the 67 machine of Tony LaRusso.
And they are now on the last lap. Only the top four will be seen again here on TNN today. We may not even see them unless they really get to the front of the main.
Boy, you can see that jump there is really getting tricky, as they really have to fight their way up and out of the hole before they even launch themselves up into the air.
I guarantee you that was part of the plan when this course was designed. They know exactly how the bikes are going to perform.
Here comes Chris Brown again. He's challenging now, Steve. He's really got a good run going here.
He sure does. You know, he really doesn't have to do this. He's got a slot in the final by staying fourth, but that's maybe why he's doing it. He wants to stay fourth.
Out of Kissimmee, Florida, just up the road from Daytona, he's going to get by the 67 LaRusso here.
Or is he?
He's got a better run through the whoops. He's got it. Ty Wallace is just in front of him now. That'll be the next victim, and there's Greg Rand, our leader up front.
And you notice how clean these two-cycle engines burn. That's how precise the carburation and the mixture of the oil with the gasoline is. If you've ever owned anything that was a two-stroke, a lot of times it had a kind of a plume of blue smoke out of it. You don't see any of these bikes do that. They are very environmentally sound.
Brown now starting to work even closer to the backside of Ty Wallace. And he's got him.
He sure does. Picks up second place when he could have stood right where he was. Played it safe. What a racer. The checkered flag is out for the Consi, and I'll tell you guys, great job. Good show. Nothing second-rate about any of the events here at Daytona today. Stay with us. When we come back, guess what? You got it. Main event time. We're back at Daytona. The preliminaries, well, they're over. It's main event time. A huge crowd enjoying the youthful exuberance of the 125cc class Supercrossers. Earlier, Ralph Shaheen took a look at a particular part of the course that if you're not concentrating can hurt you.
One of the trickiest parts of Professor Gary Bailey's Supercross track here in Daytona is one of the smallest sections. It's this face here, the initial face of a step-up jump. It's very, very steep, almost a sheer face. Problem with that is it throws off your rhythm in clearing this step-up jump. You land onto the first section, and then immediately you're thrown right back up in the air here. This sets you up for the triple jump after it. If you don't hit that triple jump just right, it really messes you up when you come back through the rhythm section. If you lose time in that rhythm section, you've lost a lot of time on the Daytona Supercross track.
Hey, if it was easy, Ralph would be doing it. All right, they're at the gate, and here's a guy to watch, number 16, James Dodd. We saw him win his heat, as did Tim Ferry. And the loudest crowds today are going to come for Ferry. He's a hometown guy. Robbie Reynard, number 22, looking sharp. If he gets a good start, the Oklahoman could pull it off. Look at the colors and the graphics. Just a wonderful scene, professional motocross.
The Supercross riders spend a lot of time deciding what colors their helmets are going to be. There's a lot of intense scrutiny put into exactly the design on that helmet. It's got to be just right to be quick.
And nobody wants anything anybody else is wearing. Here we go. The gate is triggered and they're off. The cream of the crop of 125cc riders and over the handlebars.
That was Mike Brown that came flying over the handlebars. We saw him do so well earlier. James Dobb is down in there as well, as is Andre Penier and Doug DeHaan and Steve Herman. Look at it. Oh, and Brown just went flying over the handlebars. Dobb goes up. He gets all crossed up in there as well. Oh, that did not look good.
It wasn't pretty, but not totally unexpected either. That many riders and that smaller real estate.
Luckily, everybody was able to get up and continue on. You see them all just piled up in there. The 84 Speed and Herman trying to figure a way around it. Back up front, here's our lead pack. And Jean-Sebastien Waugh took the wrong line, and Yizik gets around him. Davey Yizik on the Suzuki, your new leader. Just behind them as we complete lap number 1 is the 101 bike. That's Michael Pichon.
And I think the crowd here at Daytona a little disappointed with Tim Ferry's start. They'd hoped that he would lead from the get-go, but that is not going to happen. In fact, not even the top 5 right now is their fair-haired boy Ferry.
Here's the battle for second as Pichon gets past Waugh now. Yizik up front. Robbie Reynard is back behind him on the 22 machine. There you see him. He's battling with Karsten right now. That's for 4th and 5th position. Reynard spent a lot of time training. In fact, some people think he overtrained getting ready for this race, lifting a lot of weights and so forth. He might not have the stamina he needs to win here today.
So it's truly a 4-way battle for 4th between Barry Karsten, the 46 bike, Robbie Reynard, 22. Look at this. 65, Nathan Ramsey, 43, Kevin Windham. Any of them could end up with that position and more. But you're right, Ralph. These are young bodies, and they cannot be overtrained. They have to be brought along very slowly. They're not even totally, in some cases, physically mature yet.
To help train for this race, Steve, a lot of the riders after the Gatorback National stay in the Florida area and train at outdoor motocross tracks throughout the central portion of Florida here as they get ready for this type of track.
Now watch right here, the blue bike on the inside. That is Kevin Windham, number 43, and he's around Barry Karsten for that 5th position. And up front, 101, Mikael Pichon over Davey Yizik for the lead.
Boy, that's a strong move. Pichon out of New Iberia, Louisiana, having a real nice ride here this afternoon. In fact, Pichon won the last round at the Atlanta, Georgia Dome, and he is the current 125 Eastern Regional point leader.
And right now, he has the lead over Davey Yizik, the 37 bike, followed by Jean-Sebastien Waugh in 3rd place, followed by Robbie Reynard and Kevin Windham. By the way, Jean-Sebastien Waugh is spelled R-O-Y. It's just Ralph's good French. Got me all tuned up to say it right.
Well, I just happen to be a hockey fan.
Woo, nice head-on shot as they come popping off of those jumps.
There's Kevin Windham. Windham's got a great bet going on right now with his teammate Jeff Emig, who rides in the 250 series. Whoever wins a Supercross first this year gets to shave the other guy's head.
Really? With a machete?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, they don't show any signs of tiring. Not the bikes or not the riders. And this is 15 laps on a course that is over a mile long.
Windham is trying to catch Robbie Reynard right now. Both of those riders came up through the Team Green program that Kawasaki has in the amateur ranks. So there's a little bit of rivalry from the old days, you might say. Old days for a couple of guys who are 16 right now. Old days for them was when they were 7 and 6 and 8 years old.
Biggie Bredding like this, they'll be driving a Ferrari when they finally get their license. Ooh, 364, just about lost it there, Chris Brown.
Oh, and he did lose it there hard. That's James Dobb.
Ooh, and he's holding his wrist. That is one of the more frequent injuries, unfortunately, in Supercross, wrist and collarbone.
Wyndham now, we take a look at him as he continues to chase after Robbie Reynard. He's also got the 78 machine now. Jean-Sebastien Waugh in front of him as Reynard has gotten around Waugh.
And there's some good news. James Dobb is walking away. He's not limping. He's not holding his wrist, and gets some encouragement from Team Kawasaki saying, hey, you know, it happens to everybody.
Here's your battle for third, fourth, and fifth as we continue to watch that. Nobody able to really make a move on anybody at this point. They're all pretty consistent. Kevin Wyndham tries to slide to the outside there. Robbie Reynard's riding a pretty good race here. There's a lot. Oh, and Wyndham does make the pass.
He sure does. Blows right around Jean-Sebastien for fourth place. And look at this. Hey, once more. Moving in on Robbie Reynard for third. Reynard on the 22 bike.
Kevin really got through that rhythm section well, and that made the big difference. And here comes Tim Ferry.
We and the Floridian fans of the grandstands have been waiting for this guy to make this move, and here it comes. Stay with us from Daytona.
Welcome back to American Sports Cavalcade's coverage of the Daytona Supercross by Honda for the 125 class. You're taking a look at Tim Ferry. He's running in 6th place, but he is coming to the front in a hurry.
And the leaders are not that far away. He can see them, he can count them. 5 between him and the biggest win in his young career.
Well, there's 5th place right there. He gets around Jean-Sebastien. And these are the next two as Kevin Wyndham gets around Robbie Reynard. Tim Ferry can see them just over the rise of the next jump, and he'll be steering right at 4th and 3rd place.
I got to wonder if Tim Ferry maybe wasn't a bicycle motocross athlete. He makes those moves midair that are typical of the kids that went through that program.
Well, the one advantage he has is he grew up riding on this type of terrain around Central Florida, so he should be real accustomed to this type of terrain.
Well, here's Wyndham and Renard. They know Ferry's coming.
This is the one section Kevin Wyndham gets through real well. You see, Robbie likes to tuck it back to the inside. Kevin likes to go outside and use the big berm.
And Ferry is somewhere in the middle of those two approaches to that corner.
One is not right, the other is not wrong. It's whichever line works best for you.
And your motorcycle, depending on the power band, the gearing, and maybe even the tire selection.
Heading way over to the outside of that jump was Kevin Wyndham. Ferry chooses the same line as Robbie Reynard.
Well, I'll tell you, Ferry is not exhausting himself. Nice, easy, soft landings, timing the jumps just perfectly. His elbows out and loose, his arms not pumping up. Ooh, I'll tell you what, he could be dangerous here.
He really pounded through that last rhythm section. Look at him charge through there. He's on Robbie.
As they say, with the bit in his mouth, here comes Tim Ferry trying to get Robbie Reynard for 4th place. Oh, what a nice thing. Get that wheel down so you can get the throttle back on and drive.
Very fluid riding style out of Tim Ferry right now. He really cut that turn well. He's got Robbie.
Beautifully executed. But Robbie says, wait a minute, I'm no pushover. Robbie lost a lot of time in that right-hander.
You can see him really struggling to get through that S section, Steve. You're right. He just didn't have it. Tim Ferry did. Now, can he catch Kevin Wyndham?
Can you hear the crowd roar every time Tim Ferry makes a pass?
There's our leader, Pichon. He trained real hard this week. He went over to Universal Studios for a day.
Well, that's training. The Kawasaki out in front, and now Pichon has picked up some of the banners that mark the course, and they're on the right-hand side of the motorcycle. That's where the little disc brake is. If they get in between the calipers and the disc, he's got a problem. No rear brake, and you need that. We're wrapped around the opposite side. It might be okay, but it's not.
He doesn't seem too affected by it yet. In fact, I don't even know if he knows it's there yet. If it does develop into a problem, he'll know right away.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? I don't think he really tore the banner down. Somebody else did and left it there for him to collect.
Banners are used to line the racetrack at every round of the AMA Supercross Series, used out in the outdoor motocrosses as well. Seems to be the best thing to do. You don't want to put cement walls up with these guys.
Oh, absolutely. It's the safe way to go. But if you get one wrapped around that rear hub, I tell you, he's going to have some problems with that thing. The best way to tell, of course, is if the riders in second and third and fourth start picking up on him. You see right there, that wheel just wasn't braking right.
It really is wrapped up in there. He has got a big one.
The crowd is yelling, Ferry must be doing something. Yep, he sure is.
He has caught Kevin Windham, who has caught Davey Yizik in the battle for second. So 3 riders now, all challenging for that second prize.
And all 3 of them have a potentially huge break. And the Pichon, who was running so strong up front, now has about 10 cents worth of plastic banner wrapped around his rib. Look at Ferry fly.
He has got third now from Windham. Yizik's rear end really dancing around on him, and Ferry is all over him.
Oh, yeah. Yizik loose, not handling well, tries to take the outside of the berm. Ferry takes the opposite side, watch him square up this corner and drive. Wow, he got him.
Boy, he powered right by him. Remember, Kevin Windham has been suffering from the flu all weekend, so he might not be 100%.
And the flu, as everybody knows, just makes you tired. It just wears you out. And it takes a few days or a few weeks to get over it.
And the bad news for Kevin is we're only halfway. You saw the cross green and white at the start-finish jump.
And that's bad news for Pichon up front, too. And I surmise that he is having some brake problems. Here's a pass for second again.
Well, Davey had his hand up in the air as he went by where the mechanics are all standing. Something might not be working just right on the 37 machine. Gonna soldier on, at least for now. He's still running in fourth.
Now here is Pichon. He is still leading, but according to our unofficial watch, and I mean it's unofficial, he's losing about a second a lap to Tim Ferry, who is 10 seconds behind, and that would leave not enough laps unless Ferry can go faster or Pichon slows down even more.
Tim really working with the adrenaline in his favor now. He knows that he's moving. He knows he's riding well. Pichon really has no idea exactly how well everybody else is riding. He does have a tremendous lead, and every time he goes by this area of the racetrack where the tuners are standing, the mechanics, he's getting aboard, so he's aware of the fact that Ferry is closing, but he doesn't know how well Ferry is riding.
Now you watch Ferry, and he can take virtually any line he wants. When we go back to Pichon, let's watch and see if he's wide on every corner. If he is, that means he does not have adequate rear braking.
You can see Ferry just charges through those rhythm sections.
Oh, he is magic to watch.
Here's 6th through 9th position. John Sebastian falling backwards. You remember he was right up in the thick of things earlier. Here's your leader again.
All right, here's the leader. And here comes Tim Ferry.
Boy, he's right in the frame now, isn't he?
He's picking up more than a second a lap now, I guarantee it. Might be more like 2 or 3.
Well, the crowd is really a big part of this ride here this afternoon for Tim Ferry. Every time they come up near the tri-oval section, he can hear them right through there.
Stay with us, everyone. We may have a real duel at the front when we come back to Daytona for AMA Supercross action.
Welcome back to Daytona. The 125 Supercross by Honda is closing down. Tim Ferry trying to catch Mikael Pichon. Now battle for the lead. You saw the Suzuki factory people waving him on.
As if he needs any encouragement. Look at this. Ferry has now picked up a cover off of one of the hay bales. Let's see where it's hung up. It looks like it's on the foot peg. If it doesn't get into the wheel, it won't be a problem unless it acts as a parachute.
Now it has spun some of it off, but some of it has wrapped around the wheel.
But it's not on the brake side. You can clearly see the brake mounted there on the swing arm. He's probably going to be okay with that.
Well, that helps even things out a little bit now, doesn't it?
Boy, who'd have thought debris would be a big factor in a Supercross race here today.
Pichon getting ready to work through some of the slower riders. The number 84, Stephen Herman.
And there is Ferry picking him up. He's about 3 seconds a lap faster now. And it would appear that that plastic wound around the inside of the hub is not affecting him. He has that gentle, smooth line he's had all race long.
Pichon really having to deal with a lot of traffic now. He had already gotten around the 84 Herman. Tim Ferry will deal with that rider next. It looked like Doug DeHaan of the 204 bike is going to be one of the riders in front of Pichon here in just a minute.
Now right there, obvious, Pichon did not have any rear brake. If he does, it's a very little bit. He's having to take the slow, wide lines just to stay on the racetrack.
He gets around the 158 of Terry Parsons. Ferry having a little trouble there, Steve.
Yep, he sure did. Might have had a problem selecting a gear.
Well, that didn't help any, did it?
No, it did not. The lap riders were not the problem there.
He still doesn't seem like he's really up to speed.
No, he does not. Maybe that debris around the wheel is more of a handicap than we thought it was. Well, we won't know until we can talk to both these riders when the race was over. We're just surmising some things based on expert observation.
Barry Karsten and Mike Treadwell battling deeper in the pack.
And now Ferry seems to be back on the gas. Whatever had slow, oh man, he's just as aggressive as he was. Maybe he just took a nap for a while.
There's the 204, DeHaan, that Pichon finally caught up to him.
But Pichon now putting a couple of those lappers between he and Ferry, and that's where he needs to keep them.
Shane Slother on the 715 entry, the Yamaha out of Pennsylvania, will be the next one that our second place rider will have to deal with, Tim Ferry.
You know, still, there's some decent battles in the back of the pack, that's for sure. The lead now is 5 seconds by Pichon, and here comes Ferry. With back the battle for 6, with 50 Mike Treadwell, 65 Nathan Ramsey, all good stuff to watch.
One of the areas that has become a huge battle inside Supercross racing has come in apparel. What the riders wear, the clothing manufacturers. You have Axo, you have Fox, you have Answer. All these big companies, JT, they all battle back and forth to claim these riders, get them to ride their gear. That's a big part of where these riders make their money. Not just the contract for the manufacturer of the motorcycle, but the manufacturer of the clothing as well.
For every rider capable to race here at Daytona in 250 or 125, there's 100,000 of them out there that want to imitate him and will buy what they wear. Basketball is not the only sport that happens.
Mike Treadwell is leading the battle for 6th position right now. He's got 46 entry of Karsten in there with him, and 65 of Nathan Ramsey.
All right, there is Tim Ferry currently in second.
And the only area where I see Tim Ferry really picking up a lot of time on Pichon seems to be in that rhythm section through the whoops. Tim really seems to charge in there and get through that section a little bit quicker.
And there is Ferry. He has one bike between he and the leader. And I agree with you. He is a fabulously stylish rider. Really interesting to watch, and I'm sure for a lot of motocross kids at home, boy, pay attention to him. That's how it's done right there.
614 of Andre Penne getting out of the way. Allows Tim to get through, and now there shouldn't be anybody between first and second place. And here's the rhythm section. Look at how Pichon's going through. Now watch Ferry just blast over the tops of it.
That's right, and brake is not a factor here. This is rider.
Just constantly getting on the throttle, powering through.
Yep, and oh, does he cut that corner nicely. That probably saves him a tenth of a second. The fans are going wild for the 125. Their man is on the hunt. He is now about a second and a half behind the leader.
Pichon is riding much more tentatively. He is not really attacking the racetrack. Tim Ferry, a very aggressive ride here. He is going after it.
Well, I guarantee you, Pichon is not tired. He shows no signs of that. It's his motorcycle. There is Tim Ferry, Floridian, in the lead in Florida, and they love it.
Watch him go through that. Look at that rhythm section. He just pounds right through it, Steve.
It's absolutely amazing. And now he's in the lead. All he's got to do is hang on, not make any mistakes, and he'll be on the rostrum in front of a lot of friends and fans. Stay with us, everybody. Who'd miss the finish of this one?
Welcome back to the Daytona Supercross. Ralph Shaheen and Steve Evans along with you. We are winding down, along with Tim Ferry, the 125cc portion of this historic event.
And I think this crowd is going to cheer Tim Ferry right to the checkered. And Ferry is getting a sign from his pit people that there's problems with Pichon. They may be telling him that he doesn't have a lot of brake or whatever. So Ferry right now is avoiding all the obstacles he possibly can on Gary Bailey. This makes Baja look like a picnic course.
Gary should know a lot about riding and running well here at Daytona. He's had a couple of good rides himself, finishing third here a couple of Daytona Supercrosses over the years.
A long time ago. I would tell you, though, he started taking it maybe a little too easy and had a hard landing. You could see it just jarred his arms right up into their sockets. And sometimes you don't want to slow down too much. You've got a good rhythm. You want to keep with it. Maybe not take any chances, but he's been so, as you said, fluid all day, and his landings off the jumps have been phenomenally soft.
You're right, though. If you got a rhythm that works, don't change it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Once you change that rhythm, it can change your whole riding style, and you might miss something that when you were running at 10/10 pace, you wouldn't have missed.
I did notice that landing, and it was uncomfortable. It jarred him pretty good, and that's when he seemed to get back on to that pace of earlier.
Well, you can see his foot slide off the peg there, and he pulls it back on.
Getting a little tired. In fact, none of his landings now are nearly as perfect as they were before, whether it's a little bit of fatigue. It's certainly not the motorcycle. It's as strong as ever.
One thing you won't see riders do here at Daytona is spend a lot of time in the seat. If you notice, Tim Ferry stands up, I should say, on the pegs 99% of the time when he's lapping around the racetrack here at Daytona. A lot of times at a Supercross track, you see the riders sit back down. Usually the only times they'll sit down here is for the hairpins. And
coming out of corners, they'll try to get back down so they get maximum traction. Otherwise, that wheel is just going to spin.
Speaking of a tired young guy, Kevin Windham battling the flu all weekend, doing a great job holding on to third on that Yamaha. That'll do well for him in the point standings. And it'll do well for him in Yamaha's stead because he's shown a lot of courage here to come back from really being a pretty sick kid. Oh, look at Ferry. That wasn't just styling it, folks. That was setting it up for the right-hand turn, and he did it beautifully. Works to the inside of the number 700 entry. That's the bike that belongs to James Eichel. We've seen a lot of him today. There's Pichon.
I think Pichon is going to be a fortunate guy if he can hold on to second place right now. And he's riding his heart out just to do that. And we have one lap to go. Just one.
We talked about Pichon leading the point standings coming into this round. Kevin Windham sits second in the points. He'll help close up some of Pichon. They were only 5 points apart coming into this, and Tim Ferry was third in the points coming in. He was only 7 points behind Pichon. So this 125 Eastern Regional Series, the championship itself, is wide open.
Do you think Ferry will pass Pichon in the points with this win, the way they're structured?
He should. The question is, can he hold on over the course of the season?
Well, I think he could for sure if all the races were in Florida and he got the kind of fan support that you hear in the background for Tim Ferry riding number 23. The man behind him is a lap down. He's not a threat. Remember, we are on the last lap, and like I said, they're going to cheer Ferry right to the roster.
That motorcycle bouncing forward, backward, all over the side, keeping it right under him. He has definitely slowed down his pace some, but he has not lost a whole lot of ground to Pichon yet.
He just wants to celebrate, and he's got another third of the course before he can do it. Be interesting to see what kind of a finish line jump he does. The cameramen are all huddled down there, ours as well.
Well, he's certainly enjoying the moment as he should. He's worked hard for this win here today. It's not often you come to Daytona and pull off a big win.
Especially a year after you came up just a bit short.
There's Brown and Ramsey. That's the battle for 8. Tim making his way around now to the finish line jump. Here it comes.
Checkered is out. Oh, now there's a little different approach. I'll be darned.
He just rolled over it.
Yep, a happy guy. And look at these fans. They just love. Been a long time since they've had a good Florida rider right here at Daytona.
How about this guy, Kevin Windham? What a tremendous ride for that youngster for Yamaha. As sick as he is today, pulling off a hard-earned third place. Hey, when we come back, Tim Ferry, local boy does good. We'll talk to him. Stay with us here on American Sports Capital.
Welcome back to Daytona. They have quit throwing the dirt and spraying it in each other's faces. Pretty soon they'll be spraying Coca-Cola because these are young champions. Take a look at how they finished. Tim Ferry, boy, what a great day for this kid, a native of the state of Florida. Michel Pichon probably could have won it were it not for that banner wrapped around his brake. As you look at the rest of the top 10, let me tell you, this was the biggest crowd to ever see a Supercross at Daytona. Let's go down to the winner's circle, Ralph Shaheen.
Tim, that was a real impressive ride coming through the field. Tell me about it from your viewpoint.
I got a really, kind of bad start, and I got behind a few guys that held me up. First couple laps, I realized about the second lap, I got to get moving and try to win this thing.
There was one part where you really stopped almost out of the racetrack. Really looked like you fell back. What happened?
I thought I got a rock or something in my chain, but it was a hay bale cover, and it actually knocked my bike into neutral, and I thought the chain had come off. When I was ready to pull over, I looked down, and the chain was still on, so I just popped in gear and took off again.
Winner of the Daytona Supercross, Tim Ferry. Steve?
Michael, I tell you, that with all of those problems, though, that was a tremendous ride. You led for 12 entire laps, and it looked like you might have won it.
Yeah, I was not tired. It's just my brakes, and I was very good. I have a lot of time behind Ferry. I was faster than him for sure. I was very fast and felt good, but for one break, I finished second.
Well, you just can't decorate that rear wheel with all banners in the place, but great job. We loved watching you.
Thanks a lot.
Ralph?
Kevin, you're not feeling too well. It must have been a tough ride because of that.
Yeah, halfway through, my stomach just really started getting some pains, but man, Ferry and Pichon, saw Pichon slacking at the end. I don't know what happened, but Ferry just rode a good race and rode by us.
Was it just for you strictly a battle of you mentally beating yourself here today?
Yeah, I'm really glad just to finish. I've been down the whole week, and of course I'm on the podium. That's real good, but my stomach's just really bothering me right now.
Good news for Kevin Windham. It is a long season.
Well, hopefully Kevin can head on back to his pits, into the motorhome, and maybe lay down and get a well-deserved rest. Well, here's the entire finish of all 21 riders. A lot of courage, and most importantly, in any form of motorsport, no injuries, maybe a few bumps and bruises, but that's to be expected in this kind of a sport where you really don't have a suit of armor around you. Ralph Shaheen, we had a great time, huh?
The great thing here, Steve, is that now that the future of American Supercross racing is in great hands. We've seen some brilliant riding here today.
I couldn't agree more. The class of '95 will graduate with honors. A promotional consideration has been provided for and a fee paid by this special offer from Diamond P.